Ha ha! You better choose yourself and let's get it. Welcome to another episode on the Choose Yourself channel, dedicated to triggering you to choose yourself through radical accountability through the Choose Yourself process. Now, the heart is the hardest part to train. It breaks the build. It cracks the game. It pumps. It prays. It plays the game. It burns for peace, but beats the fame. So today, we're getting into real authenticity about coherence. Where the breath meets bravery and healing meets interference. We're diving into wisdom of the chest, where purpose rests and embrace success through the ego test. Come on now, what are you doing? Now, the heart ain't weak. It's the Wi-Fi for the soul. And the more you connect to it, the stronger your signal is and the closer you are to the goal. So welcome to the show, author, keynote speaker, wellness strategist, clinic owner, breath and heart coherence specialist, Kasia Sitarz. Just playing, that's not how you say it. Can you tell us your name, how you feeling? Welcome to the show.
Hakeem, best intro ever. That is why I said yes to this podcast, because I was like, he is going to have a beautiful intro, and it's Kasia, but or Kasia, as Hakeem says. I love that. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah, we had on a previous podcast, actually 2 episodes. So I had to bring her on the Choose Yourself channel because her story and her mindset and purpose is so much in alignment with the process. So you want to just tell us about the first time that turned your life into before and after and really boosted you and transformed you into this mission you got now.
Oh man. That is a great question to start with, because is there really only one moment that has like transformed me into who I am today? Absolutely not. Growing up, I always wanted to play sports. I was very active growing up. So I always had like that mindset of, yeah, choosing yourself in sports and in life. And then I opened up my own clinic when I was really young. So doing something that many people weren't doing, coming right out of school. And, I was turning 20 years old and I opened up my first clinic. And so that was a huge pivotal moment in my life, stepping into something that took a lot of courage. There was a lot of fear. I was still learning. I didn't go to school for business. I went into the health field, and then stepping into entrepreneurship was wild. It was absolutely wild. It was a roller coaster. And then I started my own training facility right after that. So lots of pivotal moments. To name one, I will share when I first opened up my business. I was faced with something where there was another business wanting to take me down, essentially, right from the beginning. They were like, there's this woman, that was me, coming into the town and doing something that was similar to somebody else. And she had written in the newspaper at that time and basically bashed me for doing that, like something similar. And you know what, Hakeem? I was so young. And I felt like shit. I felt so bad because of the words that this woman was saying. But I knew that that wasn't my character and that wasn't my intention. And you know what? This is the cool gift that I learned, was sometimes we don't actually have to say anything at all. We don't have to battle back at all with words. We can actually just sit back knowing what our intention is. And I had the whole town rally for me. And again, back then it was newspapers. So somebody wrote back and said, first of all, how can you publish something like that? There's a young entrepreneur starting out, doing something different for this town. And yes, it may be similar, but it's completely different. Two different humans, there is opportunity for everybody. And so let's not bash something that is actually what we want more of in this world. And so it taught me a few things, that I didn't have to, you don't always have to fight. You can always, like, you can assess the situation, step back, and sometimes other people will step in for you, or the world has a cool way of playing out. And just so 15 years later, I saw this woman on a trail and in the forest, and I recognized her, and I was like, interesting, is this the woman? And I just approached her. I had my weighted vest on, she had a weighted vest on, I believe, and I just approached her with joy in my heart. I think it was probably more 25 years later, with joy in my heart, because I knew where my business got to. And there was no hard feelings. Like, it was just like, yeah, like, the past is the past. Let's move on. And it was a beautiful lesson in many ways. I don't know
Damn.
why I just brought that up, but I love
That
it.
is, yo, 25 years on a trail in the forest. How the hell does that work? But that's the beauty of it, man. You get to see
Yeah.
yourself in the past, and you talked about taking a step back and not comparing and competing, and it's a very competitive world. And a lot of times our confidence is impacted by seeing other people and being like, oh, when can I get there? Well, the people that you are inspired by, it did not happen overnight. Now, it might take it might feel like it happens overnight. Once you, upon reflection, you're like, wow, I'm grateful. But that's just a shift in mindset to be grateful for what you have right now. But it takes a lot of nights to get to that night. And that's the importance of the choose
Yeah.
yourself process. It never stops. You just keep reapplying it. The trigger points, evaluate your environment, mindful consumption. Then you got your foundation and routines. Then you invest in yourself, time, energy, and resources. And then you start to create and contribute. And that never stops, especially as an entrepreneur. So how did you get into the
Yeah.
mindset of stepping back? Like, when did you start to understand? Were you always that poised, or did you used to have triggers where you snapped back
You
growing up?
know,
How'd you get over it?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely not. Like I always thought, why don't we ask the closest people to me if I was always like that? No, I was like a hamster. No, absolutely not. And you know what? I was just talking to somebody about this. Like they said, they said to me, they're like, you seem like you're so joyful and you have so much energy. And yes, I'm a natural generator. I do have a lot of energy, but when energy isn't processed or if it's like, shut out in different ways that's like, I don't know, it's not in alignment, then it can be chaos. And so I wasn't always poised. My nervous system was not always regulated. And sometimes I would fire back with anxiety in situations like that because I had such fear of the future or people's responses. And I did compare myself often to people. I mean, I was a pro fitness competitor for many years. I competed at a world level, and that's all comparison to the person beside you if you choose to, or you're comparing to yourself, right? And
Mhm.
so I would say I wasn't always poised. Every single lesson, every person that came into my life, they taught me something. I had a business coach that came in and he became a very close friend that taught me that I didn't have to react, that, God's got me in many ways and I built my faith a little bit. And then I also got into my body more and started to notice where I was out of alignment or where I would say more of reaction was coming in versus like a grounded response.
Mhm.
And so I've changed quite a lot. You know, I've been in business for a very long time and I've changed so much from I was a mindset coach, which is a beautiful thing because it helped me practice, about the mind and training our thoughts and not allowing every thought to, take us captive, basically. And then I started to learn more about the heart and the wisdom of the heart and that heart brain connection and how we actually have so much more power than we think. We don't need to have all of these biohacking tools to regulate ourselves. It's actually like within us, and it comes from that space of the heart and our breath. And the more I practiced some of those tools, I definitely became more regulated. So when I saw this woman, say 25 years later, I was just in a different place as well. I probably would have fought back. I just didn't have a chance, and I was also terrified. I was really young, and this woman was probably like 35 at the time. And, so I probably would have fought back. I didn't have the chance because I think I was still like kind of just sad and mopey about the situation. And then I had people step in for me. But no, I used to react quite a bit. And it's really cool. If you talk to the people closest to me, they have seen the evolution. I feel the evolution, and it's actually changed how I show up in this world, how I show up as an aunt, as a sister, as a friend, as a neighbor, and as an entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
that I give credit to Heart Coherence.
Man, heart coherence and the mind and the gut, the mind, and the heart. Yeah. Can you elaborate? You talked about tools in your foundation, the tools that you practice to help you prepare for adversity and control the quitting mind, the ego, and the sabotage, the internal dialogue, which we all deal with. We all have a voice that's constantly running unless you can build that relationship with it. So, in your foundation, what are some tools you use to help one understand that relationship, but also control it?
Yeah, well, I think you know all about this, the movement.
Mhm.
So important. Like our health habits and stacking our health habits is really important and being consistent in that, right? Showing the body you can be consistent in having a healthy mind, body and spirit. And so for me, moving my body is essential. It's like it just frees up stuck energy. I get out into the forest, I go for a run or I go for a walk, and that is so important to me. It's a non-negotiable. So even when I was working and overworking, I realized I'm like, I need to make some non-negotiables in my life. And so that was one of them. I would leave midday my clinic and just say, and people were like coming at me as I'm leaving, because sometimes you're faced when you make changes and add tools to your life, sometimes you're faced with the resistance. And I had people coming in being like, wait, I have one more question before you leave. Wait. And I had to put a strong boundary up and say, listen, I will be back in an hour and a half. This is now non negotiable for me. I will answer everything and probably with a lot more clarity because now I've moved my body and I'm out in nature. And I'll tell you, at first, people don't like change. So if you're at home and you're about to make these changes and add tools into your life, some people may not like it. And that's okay. You have to be very clear with what you want in your life and the outcome you want. And so moving my body was important. I typically ate really healthy anyhow. So that was a tool, like just making sure I didn't have a lot of sugars in my diet, a lot of alcohol. And, everybody has their balance, let's say,
Mhm.
because you can go extreme in both ways. You can go I did extreme. I did extreme training and extreme nutrition. So I've learned what healthy feels like for me. And then the tool of every morning really being grateful.
Mhm.
Gratitude has a lot of power. And there's a lot of things, out there now where it's like, yeah, just be grateful and just write down what you're grateful for. I say it out loud and feel it. Like, actually take a moment to feel what you're grateful for. And it could be the simplest things, and it will change literally the frequency in your body. It will change the cells. And that's scriptural. Like, that's
Mhm.
just known. That's science, right? So gratitude was really important to me. And then really it's sometimes like the small things that add up throughout the day, the small choices that I make that will amplify my health. So for example, if I'm going into a meeting and I'm feeling a certain way, I'm feeling a bit of chaos in my body, I will actually pause and go into prayer, intention of what I want to bring into the meeting, breath, and then this tool that I'll talk about, which is heart coherence. And heart coherence it's such a beautiful tool. It doesn't actually take much. Easier said than done because when you are, in a traffic jam and wanting to lose it, it's harder to pause and go into the space of the heart. And with breath, regulating your nervous system, like breathing in and out, and then bringing regenerative emotion in, meaning thinking, feeling, and acting out, gratitude, appreciation, love, joy for a pet, joy for a child, whatever that is, and bringing that into your heart and breathing that into the space, it can change your entire body. That signal that goes into the heart, it goes into the brain and then to the rest of the body, which can literally change your hormones, your immune system, your blood pressure, your heart, your cardiovascular health. When people say, talk about dying from a broken heart, it's a real thing. It's so important to take a pause and bring in regenerative emotion. That doesn't mean we bypass emotion that we're feeling like sadness or anger, rage, frustration. We definitely go into these spaces, but we don't hold on to that. You and I talk about this often. It's like, yeah, feel it, but don't hold on to it. Like,
Mhm.
learn about it, get comfortable with it, befriend it even, and then know that you get to choose differently. We ultimately get to choose how we show up every day. And sometimes I will say, with these tools, there's a period, like you have a baseline, right? If you are somebody that is either depressed or high anxiety, or like you're not very focused or clear in the brain, or maybe you had an injury, concussion, all that stuff, like it takes time, right, for the nervous system to change, for neuroplasticity to occur, where our brain is actually like rewiring itself. So this is not like an overnight thing. right? It's just like health. If you want to build the muscle, this is not an overnight thing. It's consistency sometimes with these smaller things that are actually really important. So,
Small
those are some of my
changes.
things.
Yeah, no, small changes over
Yeah.
time, equal radical growth. And you just got to be
Mhm.
able to have the systems and the faith enough that when you do them, eventually you'll get results. And one thing about that, you got to start to grow your mind about what you're doing inside. Understand what the connection is, understand how powerful the gut, the heart coherence is. If you're just sitting here breathing and you don't know what you're breathing for, your mind's going to race into somewhere else. And now you've skipped the practice, you've skipped the tool. So, conversations like this, tapping into people
Yeah.
that understand it in books and resources on the same device you be scrolling on. You can look up anything. And you said something about the boundaries
Mhm.
and that people, don't like it. The only people that don't like your new boundaries are the ones that expect you to be the version that they met you as. Because you meet new people with boundaries, they just know you as that
Oh,
version. So you're gonna outgrow your old people, and when you shift, that's how you know who's really with you. The people that support your boundaries, the people that still stand with you through the boundaries. If they are like, "Oh, you don't even come out anymore," and they don't hit you up no more, that's fine. That wasn't your friend. That was a seasonal person. If
yeah.
somebody's like, "Oh, this person I only hang with this person when I go spend money, when I go shopping, when I go drink, when I go, when I only talk to them when I'm depressed," and you're like, "Okay, I'm not condoning gossip and toxic anymore." You keep complaining, and they don't call you ever again. You were just there for that. So the
Yeah.
boundaries are important for sure. And
Yes.
and not supposed to like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to add to that because that's such a great point. Because one of the tools as well is like really checking your environment.
Mhm.
And that includes the house that you're living in. If there's chaos everywhere in your house, how do you think your mind's going to operate? Even the people that, you just mentioned, like, who are your friends? Who are you surrounding yourself with? And I mean, it does take courage to cut people off. Some people do it a lot easier than others. I'm like a Libra, so I'm like,
Same.
I love love and balance and all of that. Yeah, I know. And you said something really important about people will come in different seasons in your life, and if you set a boundary, what's really cool is the people that are meant to like stick around, that's actually an invitation for deeper connection and greater intimacy. And I think I shared this on the podcast before of like intimacy is truly into me you see, or
Mm,
into me I see. So my business coach said this once to me, because in my 20s, I often had walls, not boundaries. There is a big difference. Walls is like, I am so scared. I don't want to let anybody in. I am afraid to be loved because of heartbreak, rejection, all of that stuff. I had to learn, about redirection and all of those pieces. And I realized that I had walls up. And that is very different. So when you start to, bring down your walls and replace that with boundaries of being really intentional with what you want in your life and setting that boundary. And you are absolutely right that the people, so you say, you know, I'm not staying out late anymore. And, I've got a mission, I've got these things. They're going to support you. Or maybe they get curious and ask you questions like, hey, so, our dynamic's going to shift a little bit. So, what does it look like for us to get together? What does that look like? How does that feel for you? And then again, it opens up conversation versus putting up a wall and just being like, ah, that guy's just changed, whatever, I'm out. And then it's like, okay, absolutely. Then you don't want the best for me. And that's a great way to actually see, who's going to stay in your life and who's not.
yeah. Boundaries
Yeah.
are not meant to keep people out unless they weren't meant to be there in the first place. They're actually meant to show people how to stand with you. And it's really an illustration of
Yes.
like, this is now who I am. If you're in alignment, if you like this, come on with it. I love you with everything as long as we have a similar vision and understanding. And if we don't, the boundaries will also show us that. And if you don't have any, then we start to shift who we are for other people, and then you're no longer living your life.
I've been having so many conversations around relationships too. I mean, I teach something called Reconnect. It's a beautiful, powerful event and it's turning into retreats and such. And there, though, we really teach about reconnecting back to yourself. And there's a big relationship component, and that could be romantic or not. But I'm going to speak romantically. I see so many people in relationships where they're not happy because they're not actually voicing what they need. They're not setting those boundaries. And then there's like a communication breakdown. So, all of that's important for our health. If you're in a relationship where you're with somebody most of your day, how are you operating in other parts of your life? Probably not very good, right? So it's so important to have, healthy, strong relationships around us. Really important.
And don't
Yeah.
hold on to somebody out of a placeholder, out of fear of being alone. That's not gonna be healthy for anybody. And definitely solitude is imperative for long-term relationships and space as well. Because once you start acting the
Yeah.
same, that's then you start to become a version that's not the version that you met them as, and now the future changes because you planned the future as two separate beings. When you combine and you do everything together, I think that's can be detrimental. Some people do it and they do it well, but I think
Yeah.
space and time for sure is important.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
What
Mhm.
was a time where you just invested all in yourself, where you're like, this is either my last dollar or I have to really shift, a huge part of my life where you just bet on you. Like, all right, this on me. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. I've done that a few times in my life, truthfully. I'm kind of a girl that goes best case versus worst case scenario. And if I can make it in my worst case, even if I was like scrambling a little bit, but I knew that the decision was it could be a really good decision, then I would do it. And so my first but the first example was, purchasing my first investment. Again, really young, 21. I was looking at the real estate and I bought my clinic. And my parents helped me out in ways. There was a lot of renovations and people don't know this about me, right? They don't know the backstory of like literally what my hands have done. And I'm so grateful for my parents teaching me. Um, I didn't sit back. They basically handed me a hammer and said, like, we can help you, but you're gonna help with these walls and we need to tear things down. And you're gonna understand in 10 years what it took and what you put in with your bare hands to build this place. So I'm very grateful for them. So I'd say that was my first like really big, oh shit, like that's a lot of money. That's everything I have. And then I went, okay, but if I put this amount of hours in, I love what I do. And it was just me at that time. I'm like, okay, I can make this work and really well. And then it was like, okay, but what if, I don't like the what ifs, but I do the worst case scenario, I don't have a lot of clients, something happens, can I still survive? And yeah, it would have been challenging. So that was something that I was like, you know what? I'm going all in on that. That was my first investment. And then I did that a few other times. And again, thankfully, I have a family that's very supportive. So I had that kind of, in the back of my mind. And then when I invested in business coaching, like, or a coach in general, like I am a coach, but I think everybody needs a coach because sometimes we forget the things that we tell our clients, our friends. And it's like sometimes we're too close to a situation and we need to be reminded of our own things that we preach and teach on a daily basis. And so hiring a coach was another way of me saying, I'm investing in myself. And I'll say one more thing. When I decided after a relationship to go all in on myself because this relationship was not a healthy relationship. I don't know why I stayed for that long. Well, I do know now. Um, but after that ended, I was like, why does my body feel like it still wants this relationship, even though it's so unhealthy? And it was this aspect of control for me. And so I had to go all in on myself if I wanted something different for my life. I knew what a healthy relationship looked like. And it wasn't that, and my relationship wasn't with myself wasn't healthy. And
Mhm.
so I was like, well, I know what a healthy relationship looks like, but first I have to start with myself. And so I invested actually in a coach as well, but it was the time and going into the scariest parts of myself to look at it straight like in the face and be like, well, you've got some control issues in this way, or like, some expectations over here or your standards over here. Like, so I really had to face some of my shadow parts of me that just wanted to come to light. And that was painful. That was very painful. A lot of tears were shed. But I just knew, Hakeem, I was like, there's another way. There's another way to live. And I knew I needed to kind of go through the trenches and be in that like valley. And there I actually met God even more. And, that's a big reason of why I do what I do and who I am now. So that was an
That's
all-in moment for
That's
sure.
the all in. You got to go all in the dark days because you're typically by yourself, you and your creator, and that's really is biblical, spiritual for everybody had to
Right.
go through sacrifice, loneliness, struggle, and in order to be like, all right, damn, I need to open up to something greater than me. This is out of my control. In the dark days, that's what obviously created and culminated the choose yourself process because I had to choose myself. And then upon reflection, just like you had upon your reflection, I found out what the systems were. Now that's the process. That's in the book. That's now what I help people do. So what was the darkest time of your life? And then what part of that is still part of your business and purpose now?
Hmm. One, there's a couple things that come to mind. One, I remember I'm a joyful person, right? But
Yep.
I will tell you, I felt very dark when I was losing control because I mean, I built two businesses before I was 25. So I could control things and micromanage things in my business. And trust me, nobody wants any of that. I don't want any of that. That doesn't feel like freedom for me. So it was after one of these relationships where it was like it was close to Christmas. I remember being at my parents' house. It was dark out and I was just like pacing outside and my poor mom, right? They just want you to be happy. Like parents just want you to be happy. So I was like pacing back and forth and I just remember I was like I don't think I can do this. Like I don't think I can do this. I like and it wasn't a suicidal moment, but it was just more of like I felt so dark and it was like the devil was attacking me. Every little part was just like, I just felt so low and so down on myself. And thankfully, I had some really good people around me that would not let me stay stuck in that. In fact, they gave me a standard of love that I stand by to this day. And I don't know, I'm getting emotional by that. Um, I think it's just like we think that love is this like, oh, it's airy fairy and light and everybody needs to get along and don't say your truth because heaven forbid we ruffle the feathers. What love looks like to me now is that these people love you enough to actually say the truth to you.
Hmm.
And there was another moment even when I had a concussion. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Concussion by Will Smith.
Yeah.
It is very true what happens to your brain. It's wild. And I couldn't explain that. I would still run seminars when I had a concussion, but what was happening was like I would act as a different person and sometimes this anger or rage would come out of me and it's like I was watching myself. It's really hard to explain unless you've had like a full-on concussion. I just knew I wasn't the same person. And so my sisters had an intervention with me. Tough love, that standard of love of saying like we love you enough to tell you you need to go get this checked. You can't keep working the way that you're working right now. You need to heal your brain. And so, yeah, I would say these dark moments have carried forward now in a way of understanding the standard of love that I hold for the people that I care about in my life. And Hakeem, sometimes that means an ending because sometimes people don't like truth in front of their face. And so I believe when I see something in somebody, I'm going to share it. And that could be good. It could be, sharing something. I see something like you're doing amazing. I love supporting, uplifting people. You've heard my voice notes before too. I love that. And if I saw somebody not living up to the integrity that I've seen in them in the past or before, or I'm going to voice that out of love. And so I'd say those dark moments, yeah, have brought me to a place of understanding a standard of love. And I'm going to add to that. Um, Another thing that, dark moments have done for me is, as I've mentioned, it brought me closer to my faith. But now, when people are like, why do you climb the mountain? Why do you do these things? Like, you have so much energy. You have so much. Watching my best friend die brought me into a very dark moment. And what came out of that was the greatest love because grief is love. And now it's like, I want to live fully. And people don't fully understand where my energy comes from. They think, again, it's just like, oh, she's just got a lot of energy. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And when you've witnessed these things in your life, you can go two ways, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. You can go and victimize yourself and be like, well, I lost my best friend, so life is shit and I don't want to do anything. What's the point? I get that because there's also a piece where if you feel like you're going to continue on with life and be in the joy, like you're going to forget them.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. But you think about the love that, this friendship had or the grief really, and would they want that? And for me, I'm like, I get to live and this person would have wanted to live. And so for me, I'm like, I'm going to go do the business thing. I'm going to go live fully. I'm going to go climb that mountain. I'm going to love fully with discernment, with the possibility of my heart being broken as well, because I've experienced all these things already. So I'm like, I'm not as afraid of it because I see that in those shadow times or in the dark or the valley, it's like sometimes you actually reconnect back to yourself and back to God, right? And then out of that comes like another evolution of yourself.
Damn. Yeah, you just hit some truth bombs right there with that last bar. With that
I was
last
gonna
stint.
cry.
Yeah, that was, man, that was amazing. You talked about the grief, the dark days, and how grief is love and two choices, and obviously my first time experiencing grief was my little brother, and I was masking and running and
Mm,
numbing for 11 years, and my whole life reflected that. And that's what the power of the story now. And when my brother, my best friend committed suicide like a few months ago, it was like I got this new burst of energy because I had already practiced gratitude. I had already practiced and build confidence that I will be able to persevere. So yeah, there's some depressive moments. Like, yeah, you want to sit down, take a day, fine, cry it out, go, do what you got to do, watch a shitty movie, eat some bullshit, but you got to get back to it. You got to get back to it and be the version
yeah.
that they were. The version that you saw in them that made them your friend, put those traits back into you. What kind of person was that? Now take that and now share that with people. Not just how you think they would want you to live, but how would
Yes.
they live? Be that for people since they can't anymore. You
Yes.
know?
I, I think the greatest gift I can receive is when people say, "You remind me so much of Dawn." And I'm like, that was like my girlfriend who passed away. And I'm like, thank you, because
Right.
if I don't meet anybody else like her, I am so happy, and I'm sorry to hear about your friend too. And it's tough. It's like, it's so hard. And that is life. And you said it putting in these habits and these consistency is important, not just for that moment, but you're building yourself up because you don't know what life is going to bring sometimes. And then these challenges come in and we have a foundation
Hmm.
and we can pull those tools out and our body knows that we're okay, we're safe.
Yeah,
It's
that
so
awareness,
important.
you need the awareness, you need the confidence, you need the health, you need the faith, all the stuff that's developed in the foundation, in your routine, and in solitude is what you will fall back on in times of uncertainty and transformation and transition, in times of grief, loss, all this stuff that's coming. It's coming, y'all. Life does not get easier. We just get better at it if you choose yourself. So that's amazing. Thank you, Kasia.
Mm,
I appreciate you for coming back on.
Thank
Everything,
you.
everything you do. Do you have something coming up that people can look forward to? You dropping a book? What's up? Well, you have a book. You got
Yeah.
another book?
Hey, so I used to write for magazines across Canada and US. I am writing a book that's been sitting on my table for 7 years. So accountability, it's coming out. I've changed a lot, so it's shifting a bit. And it's going to be a lot about the wisdom of the heart. And I've got a retreat in Ontario coming up. So that's going to be really fun. I love just reminding people that exactly what you said, like choosing yourself, it's so important. And if somebody is listening to this, like I hope that it sparks something in them. That's what I want to do in this world is like help people, not do it for them, but help them remember the light that they already have within them. This is not something new. It's just remembering who you actually are through the chaos of the world and life and things that might be thrown at you, that you are a bright light in this world and we need more people to light their lights. To
Yep,
light
and
the
that
light, baby.
gotta light
Let's
the
go.
light. Hey, self choosers unite to light the light. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I put all your information in the show notes. No, I appreciate you, everything you're doing for
Oh,
yourself,
good.
for the people, and I will meet you one day. In the meantime, I'll see you online. Y'all make sure you tap in
Absolutely.
with her, tap into the CYC, get her book, get the Choose Yourself book, grow your mind, invest in yourself to be the best of yourself, and let's get it.